Hey, it's Jay Patrick, and traditionally, I don't like doing YouTube videos. I like to keep what I have to say within the context of the Adam and JP Show podcast, available now on iTunes, the Stitcher Radio app, and the Google Play Store. But I've got a lot to get off my chest about Batman v Superman. It's like a big cellophane S on my chest, and I just got to peel it off and throw it at you on YouTube right now. And I want to start by saying, A, there's spoilers. I'm going to spoil the end of this movie. I'm not going to spoil some minor plot point in the middle, but to tell you what I need to tell you, I've got to spoil the end of the movie. So know that going forward. Secondly, this is a big movie. It is a blockbuster. It is going to make a lot of money, and I don't think this film was as bad as the critics would make you believe it is. If you haven't seen it, hopefully you've seen it if you're watching this, and maybe you feel the same way I do. I mean, there were some flaws. There are some serious flaws, and I'm going to hit a couple in this. But there have been a lot worse movies that haven't been panned as much as Batman v Superman. I think it became chic for movie reviewers to come up with the wittiest headline for their review, even though most of them were kind of trite. But with that said, Batman v Superman is a very flawed film, and it lies squarely on the shoulders of the filmmakers. And I'm looking at you, Zack Snyder. I don't know why you chose to put so much in this movie. There is so much in this movie that it hampers the storytelling process of a film, and that is why people are having a problem with it. I'm going to start with the good, though. Here's the good. Ben Affleck as Batman, fantastic. Ben, if you're seeing this, buddy, wasn't your fault. Stick with it. You put that cowl on. You grab that cowl by the big old bat ears and be Batman again. Because what you brought to Batman is the most interesting take on Batman I've seen on screen in years. Maybe ever. I mean, Christian Bale, the Nolan trilogy, fantastic. I'm never going to say there's anything... I'm never going to say they're bad movies. But... I think what Ben in particular and the Batman that we see in Batman v Superman is certainly a more comic-oriented Batman. And, of course, I'm not the first to say this. There's a lot of hints of The Dark Knight Returns in this version of Batman, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You should use the source material. I mean, you wouldn't, make a movie based on a Shakespearean play and add characters to it. So I love the fact that we are in a point now where filmmakers that do the comic films, Marvel especially, lean on the stories that came from the comic books, the content, the source material. So that Batman I loved. I can't wait to see what happens with that Batman, and I hope that Ben sticks with it because I want to see where he can take Batman in the future. Not only portraying Batman, but also directing a Batman movie. I think it'd be fantastic. I think if this was solely a Batman movie, people would have a different take on it. Even directed by Zack Snyder. Maybe. But the first 30 or 40 minutes of this movie felt disjointed. And I think once you have that, once you are 30 minutes, half an hour into a movie, and you still feel disjointed, and there's rough transitions between scenes, what it felt like is, have you ever played a video game that had cutscenes and you loved that game, so after you finished it, you went and found the cutscenes online where somebody had taken them all and put them together into one long kind of mini movie? And you watch it because you've played the game, so you have context to connect the cutscenes together. The first half hour of this movie felt like cutscenes with no story context. I mean, sure, it opens with Crime Alley. We see the Waynes murdered again for the 25th time on the movie screen. I guess Zack Snyder just wanted to do his version. It's slow motion. Usually we get pearls and popcorn falling to the ground. This time it was just pearls, but pearls slowly falling to the ground in the blast of a big handgun. That's what happened in this movie. So that opens. That's fine. I'm sure there was one person in the movie audience that had no idea of Batman's backstory, but after all, we are talking about a Batman who's been doing it for 20 years by the time we meet him in this movie. So I think it would have been okay not to include that scene, and you would have saved time. And by saving that time, you could have really explored the relationship between Batman and Superman other than just having them fight instantly make up and team together because that was forced. It didn't have to be forced if you had had less in the movie and allowed that relationship to be explored more. Other than, I hate you more. I'm going to train for 2 years to kill you. Well, I'm Superman. I could kill you, but I've got kryptonite. Oh, we're friends. Our mom has the same name. Oh, well, I'll go rescue your mom then. That's basically Batman v Superman, or at least that relationship in a nutshell. But there's so much story. I mean, the next scene, after the Wayne's murder in Crime Alley, we get Lois Lane in the desert, who's talking to some sort of leader, and then there's perhaps terrorists, maybe military guys. Superman shows up to rescue Lois Lane. People get gunned down, and Superman gets blamed for the people being gunned down because when a bunch of people get shot down, you think maybe Superman did this? Maybe I missed something. It's possible that this movie was so convoluted, they actually explained why people thought Superman killed those people in the desert, and I just missed it. I don't think they did, but it's possible. If they did, please feel free to tweet me at AdamandJP or at JPatrick2100. So then you have Lois Lane trying to prove Superman's innocence, and oh man. And then there's Wonder Woman, and then there's Lex Luthor trying. You know what? I'm going to save Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday for the next Adam and JP Show podcast. What I want to concentrate on now, and what I want to talk about, is how Superman was handled in this movie. I think a true injustice was done to Superman. No pun intended. For Injustice Game fans. And it starts with Man of Steel. Superman has a love for humanity. What makes Superman a hero is that he has this love for humanity, the people of Earth, a planet that he's not even from because his planet was destroyed, basically by the people of that planet. Krypton was destroyed by Kryptonians, more or less. And so he is an alien, a refugee on Earth that loves humanity so much that he becomes Superman. Where does that love for humanity begin? It begins in Smallville, Kansas. It begins with Jonathan and Martha Kent. And when in Man of Steel, when you portray Jonathan Kent as this overprotective helicopter parent who doesn't want anything to know about Clark, you're stifling the person, the man, the Superman that Clark will become. And that continued in this movie. I mean, when you have the parents saying stuff like, oh, you don't owe him anything. No. He doesn't do it because he owes anybody anything. He does it because he has a love for humanity. But we never see that love for humanity. And we never see that love for humanity reciprocated to Superman because that is joy. And these movies are joyless. Say what you want about the old Superman movies, and I know compared to 2016 standards, they're really campy. The first Superman, the Richard Donner movie, is pretty good. Superman 2 is pretty good. 3 and 4, not so great. But at least in those films, there's joy when people see Superman. When Superman flies by a busload of kids, they scream and cheer because Superman brings joy to them. You never see that in these movies. You see Superman doing good things, saving flood victims, saving a little girl in a fire, saving a rocket as it blows up on the launch pad. He does heroic things, but he's lacking the heart that makes him a hero because you never established that in Man of Steel. He was just a conflicted alien, which is great. That's a great angle for Superman. That's a great character study of Superman, the conflicted alien who loves humanity. And it can be explored in film and has been explored in comics. Superman's greatest fear is one day he'll go nuts and he's capable of taking over and destroying the world. That's great stuff to explore after you've established the hero Superman. And because you never did that, because you never established Superman as the bright hero of the Justice League universe, when Superman dies at the end of this movie, when he's killed by Doomsday, there's no emotional connection. There are a couple of points in this movie where you could have made that emotional connection, or at least explored the love of humanity and how humanity loves Superman. When he was testifying before the Senate subcommittee, before it became this weird Lex Luthor, pee in a jar, bomb in a wheelchair, killing a guy who lost his legs when the Wayne Financial Building collapsed on him. Before that, why not have Superman pontificate about humanity and how much he loves humanity and why he's here as a protector and not as a conqueror. You could have established that, but in this hit you over the head like a sledgehammer action movie that was Batman v Superman, there wasn't time for that because there was too much going on. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White was relegated in this film to yelling for Clark Kent, and when he did find Clark Kent, asking where the sports stories were. Why not give that fantastic talent something to do? Like a couple of scenes where he explains what Superman means to the people of Earth. It's choices that could have been made. Choices that weren't made to create the Batman v Superman 2.5-hour video game. Adam's words, not mine. At the end, when the Doomsday battle takes place, it's basically like the final boss battle in a video game. To the point to even when you thought he was beaten, he powers back up. Doomsday shouldn't have been in this movie. Wonder Woman shouldn't have been in this movie. Lex Luthor shouldn't have had so many side projects. We'll explore that on the Adam and JP Show podcast next week. But I wanted to get the Superman stuff off my chest and praise Batman in this movie because he was fantastic. You can get caught up on the Adam and JP Show at adamandjp.com or find us on iTunes. Use your podcast app on your phone or Stitcher Radio app or Google Play Store. All those outlets, find the Adam and JP Show. And like I said, you can tweet me at jpatrick2100. And I will see you next on the Adam and JP Show.